All right, I just want to do a quick video this morning on backer material, right, when chinking. A lot of people don't understand the chinking process. So the big misconception is that you want your chinking to stick to what it's attached to. Not accurate. You need it to stay there until it cures. But the reality is you really only want that chinking to adhere to the top and bottom log. That's the reason we put backer behind it, right? Backer is made so that the chinking will actually separate from that product and can slide on it. You know, every day those logs heat up and expand, and every night they get cold and contract. So you want that product to be able to slip and slide, sticks to the top and bottom and slides behind it. So really what product you're using, there's not a specific product, right? Different thicknesses. You know, you can use anything from masking tape. You know, we use a lot of this sill seal type foam. Anything closed cell, not going to absorb moisture, that's shiny, slick, that product is not going to properly, it's not going to adhere to, right? You need to stay there until it cures, not slump out, but you want that chinking to be able to slide. You know, we got quite a few different products. They're up on the top shelf here, but really a lot of options of what you can use there as long as it's got the characteristics that it will slide. If that chinking is going to fail, it will fail eventually, right? You also want that to fail inside. You don't want it to fail at the top and bottom seam, right? You want it to fail somewhere in the middle. That makes it easily repairable, right? You can get chinking in a caulk tube, right? Like this. You can go back and run a bead of this acrylic chinking on that and repair it versus having to tear it all out and redo it, right? You know, one of the worst scenarios is when that chinking fails at the top seam, where that bottom of your log and the top of your chinking meet. If it fails there, a lot of times that water's running down your logs, going to hit that split seam, that crack in your chinking, and funnel in behind it and get trapped, right? That's a bad scenario. Cracks at the bottom, not usually that critical. It runs over and drips. But in an ideal world, the middle, right, you don't get that funnel effect. Most of the water is going to shed over it, around it, and it's easily repairable and it's easier to see, right? If you get a crack in your chinking right in the middle, you can see that and repair it quicker than if it's at a seam where you've got that transition between wood and chinking. You can't control how your chinking fails in a lot of scenarios, but you can influence it in the right direction by applying backer rod back there. You know, another thing to keep in mind with chinking is you want 3/8 of an inch wet thickness when you put it on, right? You don't want it too thick, you don't want it too thin, but 3/8 of an inch wet thickness, right? And wet thickness is different than dry, right? So if you put it on 3/8 inch thick when it's wet, a lot of times it's smaller than that after it's dried, right? 3/8 can be a 1/4 inch thick dry if you cut into it after the fact. You know, you want it flexible. You want it elastic. You want it to be able to move, right? You put a ton of chinking in there, it's an inch thick, it's rigid. It's not flexing, it's not moving, and it fails quicker. So more is not better in this regard. Thanks.